In today's tutorial, let's learn how to do the Scandinavian Snowflake Crochet Afghan together. This is a pattern by me, just for you. Welcome back to the Crochet Crowd as well as Yarnspirations.com. I'm your host Mikey. Today we're going to work on the Scandinavian Snowflake Crochet Afghan. These are made up of motifs that look just like this. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you how to build one of these. I'm going to show you how to do the border so that they can join to a neighbor, and then I'm going to cover the main border at the end. So all of this is coming up within today's tutorial. Let's go over some of the anatomy of this particular motif, and then let's get started on going step by step. So let's cover what's in this motif. So I'm a kind of a lazy crocheter, so I like to do things in sections. So for example, we have our color here. I would do everything in all of my motifs that I count out that I want for myself. So I figure out how many I want, and then I do all of the white section first. Then what I do is that I put those all aside, and then I come back and I do all the red section then next, and then I come back and do all the white afterward. The reason why I do it like that is that if you have to keep reading on instructions all the time, it just is very time consuming. But once you get beyond this main level and you start going step by step like I'm suggesting, you can go a lot faster without having to go back to your instructions all the time in order to finish this. It does not take long to make one of these Afghans if you can bury the instructions into your brain and do it step by step, just like I said. So what I would strongly recommend to you is that you do all of the motifs up until you get to the final border edge. So you're gonna have all these done and they'll be stacked up like a deck of cards. Then what I want you to do is that we want to start doing the finalizing border. So the very first one, I have an example right here, will have the final border added to it, and then what we're going to do then is the next ones that are going to join with this is that every time you get to a spot where they join is that you're going to create the joining on the opposite side. Okay, so we have to have one completely done just like this, and then all of the rest will then start joining to the neighbors as you're being able to put it together, and there's detailed information available about that on my website as well. So let's start the motif together, and if you're looking at the colors and you like the colors, this is Bernat Super Value yarn. This is called Natural. It's not white, it's more of like an off-white, and then we have berry red just like so. Remember, the colors that you can do in your project are really subjective to you, so if you want to change them throughout the project, again, this is your creativity. So you're going to need your yarn today. Let's get started, and we're gonna start off in the middle. You're gonna need a 5mm size H crochet hook today, and let's get your yarn and let's begin to do a slip knot, and let's start with the instructions next. So now that we have our slip knot done, let's do a chaining of 5. So this, remember, the one on the hook never counts as one. So let's roll that hook back and yarn over. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and let's insert this hook into the beginning chain, yarn over, and pull through, and this will form the very middle of circle. Okay, the middle center of your snowflake motif. Now take this yarn and I want you to just kind of wrap it around and just kind of pinch it together with the circle, and then in the next round what we're gonna do is bury it underneath so that you'll never see that, so you can safely cut it. So that's the whole point of this. You don't want your tails hanging out. Let's move on to officially round number 1. So round number 1 says chain 6, which counts as a double crochet and a chain 3. Okay, that's why there's chaining of 6. And then it says 1 double crochet into the ring, chain 3, and do that 11 times. So let's begin. So we're going to chain 6. So 1, 2, 3. So that is your double crochet. So 4, 5, 6. That is your chain 3. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense to you. Now you're going to double crochet into the ring, and you need to do that with a total of 11 times. So we're going to then chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then double crochet back into the ring. So what's gonna happen by the time you get all the way around, these are called posts, 1, 2, and 3 that you can see there. So you should have a total of 12 of those if you're keeping your counts, and you gotta make sure you keep your counts with this. So remember, it's 1, 2, 3, so that's chaining of 3, double crochet back into the ring, and keep doing that all the way. And I want you to do that, and I'll meet you back here in just a moment, and I'll show you how to finish off this round and move you up to round number 2. So I'm coming up all the way back around, and I should have a total of 12 of these posts. So you can count them: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Now you just cannot join it to the first one here. You got to make sure you chain your 3, and then just join it to the third chain up. So 1, 2, and 3, and join it with the slip stitch. like so. And that concludes off round number 1. So what I want you to do with the straggler that is hanging in the center, we've kind of buried it because we treated it like it was part of the center. I want you to take your scissors and I want you to be able to cut that string out just like this, and then therefore you'll have no strings hanging out and it will not distract you any further. Let's move on to round number 2. Let's move along to round number 2. It says to slip stitch in the chain 3 space. So right now we are slip stitched into a chain, but I will need you now for round 2 to slip stitch into the first chain 3 space. So just insert your hook in to the space, yarn over, pull through and through. So now you can see that your hook is actually in a space this time. So now we're going to chain 1 and we're going to do 1 single crochet into that same space, followed by a chain 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. Then single crochet back into the same space once again. So here's the trick. The next chain 3 space, all there's going to be there is 2 single crochets. So you notice I'm not chaining anything to get there. I'm just immediately just jumping to the next space and doing 2 single crochets. So now what we can just do, the next chain 3 space is exactly what we've already done here. So we just insert our hook in and single crochet into the next space, chain 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7 and single crochet back into that same space. So what we're going to end up with is that we're going to end up with 6 of these, because if you notice the motif, it's a hexagonal, therefore it has 6 sides, and so you should have 6 of these chain 7 loops going all the way around. So once you're here, the next one is 2 single crochets in, and then the next one is single crochet first, chain 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, coming back into that same space for a single crochet, and then keep moving around. So I want you to do that and join back here in just a moment, and I'll show you what to do to finish off round number 2 and then move on to round number 3. So I'm coming up all the way back around and I'm just following the pattern. 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. I'm following the pattern, and if I'm following it correctly, the very last space that you're gonna have will have the 2 single crochets in there. And what I want you to do after you get that done, just slip stitch it to the beginning single crochet that you started with, just like there. Okay, so you should have 6 of these loops going all the way around just like you see. And now let's go on to round number 3. So for round number 3, what we're going to be doing is completing this section right in here. So this loops is what you've just finished. So we're gonna be completing all of this, and once you get that done, it's really quite simple, and then this whole pattern is really not complicated at all. When I designed it, I made sure that wasn't gonna rack your brain too much. So we're gonna concentrate on this section next and just pay attention to what we're gonna do. When I designed it, I was really being conscientious of the counts in order to make it sit flat when it was doing so. To start off round number 3, we're gonna immediately just chain 1, okay, and we're not gonna worry about this first single crochet. That's what it says, miss the next single crochet. We're not gonna do this. We're just gonna play in these big loops, okay, at this time, and then we're gonna play in the spaces in between. But let's concentrate on the loop first. We're gonna start off with and go right into the loop and single crochet 2 times. So 1 and 2. Then we're going to chain 2, and this will make sense in the next round, but just chain 2, 1 and 2. And now we're gonna put in 3 double crochets into that same loop. So 1, 2 and 3. And now we're gonna get even bigger to make the points. So let's begin to do that. So we're gonna do 2 trebles first. So wrap the hook twice and going into the same loop. Okay, do it again. Now this is a picot that we're about to do. So this, and by the way, if this is getting too much over, you can always just move things. It's just on the loop. It's not in any stitch, so everything is adjustable. So to do the picot, I want you to chain 4. So 1, 2, 3 and 4, and insert your hook into the top of the first chain, or right into the first chain itself, and yarn over, pull through and through, and this creates a round circle loop. And I'm gonna show you this again in one more, but let's keep on going for those that are following. You're going to treble then 2 times after this picot. So just wrap the hook twice. And what we're doing is we're doing the exact same but in the opposite. So we were getting smaller to bigger, now we're going bigger to smaller. So now we got our 2 trebles like we just did on this side of the picot, and so we're gonna then go to 3 double crochets. So 1, 2 and 3, followed by chain 2, 1 and 2, and then single crochet twice more into that loop. So there's a lot going on one loop. So there's 2 single crochets that basically are joining everything together here, and so we're just gonna put 1 single crochet into each of those. So 1 and 2, and immediately jump to the next loop. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to see on the project where we're going. So this whole thing right here, we can see that there's 2 single crochets, chain 2 space, and do you see this red one here? So that's attaching to the first double crochet. So it kind of like tucks in underneath to give you that shape of the snowflake. Okay, so this is what you're kind of working on at this point. So let's start another loop. So we're just gonna immediately come into the next loop and single crochet 2 times. 1 and 2, followed by chain 2, 1. Okay, then 3 double crochets, so we're getting bigger. So 1, 2 and 3. So now we're gonna start our trebles. How many trebles are there? If you guessed 2, you're right. So wrap the hook twice, and we want to do 2, and now it's that picot. So let's do the picot. So it's 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Insert your hook into the first chain, yarn over, pull through and through. Now you've created that loop, and now you're gonna treble 2 more times. So we're gonna come down the other side of that same loop. So it was 1 and 2, so the 2 trebles are in. Now we're going back to double crochets, so there's gonna be 3 of those. 1, 2 and 3, followed by chain 2 and 2 single crochets. Do you see that I'm moving that yarn out of the way like the stitches? So you might need to do that. Okay, so now there's 2 single crochets here before the next one. You're gonna fill those in, and it'll be 2 single crochets, 1 in each for the next. So here's what you're creating here, just like so. And so I want you to complete the rest of the 4, and I'll meet you back here and I'll show you what to do next. So I'm just coming up all the way back around, and I'm finishing on my chain 2. I'm single crocheting twice into the final petal area, calling it a petal, should say snowflake edge. Don't forget that you still have to do 1 single crochet into the final 2 single crochets at this point. And now your white is completely done, but you make sure that you have to slip stitch to the beginning single crochet that you started with, and then that brings that in balance. So let's cut our yarn at this point. And I found with myself I didn't have to use a darning needle in order to hide my loose ends. I just gotta make sure I bury it long enough. So when I go to cut this, what I want to do is that I want to continue to weave this backward into this section over here. And what this will do is that it'll prevent you from grabbing the darning needle if you don't want to do that, because I know how much you all love that. So I just want to just kind of weave myself back into this section, and then when I'm gonna come back around this section, it's going to bury it because it's gonna trap it underneath. So what I would like to do then is just safely just trim out this yarn at this point. And you can always just clean it up at the end as well. And now let's get ready, and we're gonna move up to round number 4, and it says join B. B means a color, and that'll be the berry red, and that's coming up next. So I'm now ready for round number 4, and it says join B into any inside circle of a picot joint. So when you look at this, there's actually circles right in the points itself because of the way that we did the picot. So what I want you to do is I want you to grab your yarn up that you want to change the color to. Mine happens to be berry red. If you don't want to do this color, it's up to you. It's your creativity. I could see a nice black and white one of these as well. So what I want to do is do a slip knot, put it onto the hook, and insert it into the center of the picot. And what I like to do is that I like to get both strands and wrap over, pull through and through, and that'll trap that loose end in. And what I want to do is then just leave this loose end out, and then I want to bury it. So once we have that done, we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to do 3 single crochets into the same picot. So we got 1, 2 and 3. And now what we're going to do is that we're going to build and start off small, get bigger to the point, and then jump to the next one. So here's how we're going to do it. So we're just gonna make sure that we have enough counts. So we have 1 half double crochet, then we have 2 double crochets, and then 2 trebles in order to finish this off on one side. So let's begin. So we're gonna half double crochet first into the first stitch, just like so. We're going to do a double crochet into the next 2, and I have a loose end hanging out here. I'm just gonna bury that out of the way. So we're going to do a double crochet in the next 2. So 1 and 2, and then the last 2 that we're going to do are going to be trebles. Okay, so you wrap the hook twice for the treble. Don't forget to do that. Just like that. Okay, so we've gone from a small to big. It's almost like a game of Sesame Street really, with Ernie saying big or small. So we're going to immediately then just jump over to the first stitch over here. It's the first double crochet, and we're gonna start off with doing our trebles first. So we're gonna go from big to small. So we're going to do a treble, another treble, so another one, in the next one is a treble. Then we're going to do 2 doubles, so 1 and 2, and then the final will be 1 half double. Okay, and I'm going to go through another side of this, so if you're not catching on at this moment, don't worry about it. So we have the picot next, so go inside of the picot and single crochet 3 times into that picot. So let's review. So this is what's happening here. You're kind of bringing everything together. So let's do it again. So we start off with the first one, and we want to put in a half double to start. Okay, the next 2 will be double crochets, 1 and 2, and then the final 2 before doing the jump is trebles, so 1 treble each. Then what we're going to do is jump to the next one. So we're gonna start off with the treble, and it's the first double crochet that you're going into. So there's gonna be 2 trebles in a row. Then 2 doubles. Okay, and then the final on that is going to be a half double. So you've gone from big to small, and then you go for the picot right inside and 3 single crochets. Continue to do this now on every side, and this is what you're kind of seeing how it's happening. So you're getting that point of the motif being a hexagonal at this point, and we're gonna do some more fancy footwork after this, but continue to do this idea all the way around, and I'll meet you back here and we'll start off round number 5. So now I'm back, and we just have to then slip stitch to the beginning a single crochet that you started with, and just slip stitch like this, and now we're ready to go for round number 5. But you can't just start where you're about to start now. Let me show you what to do next, and the next round is really easy. So let's start on round number 5. So you've slip stitched to the beginning single crochet, and if you look at it, there's 3 single crochets in the picot, but the first one is not the center, isn't it? No, it's not. So what we want to do is that we want to move over and go to the next stitch available to you, and just yarn over and pull through and through. And now this puts you back into the center, and what you want to do is pay attention to the center points. So every time you have a group of 3, you want to pay attention to where those are in this particular round. So we're going to start up by chaining 1. So chain 1, and into the same stitch you want to do 3 single crochets. So 1, 2, and 3, and now you just want to follow all the way along the edge. One stitch gets 1 single crochet all the way to the next corner. So how do you know where the next corner is? Well, you look for that group of 3, and the middle one of the 3 is your next corner. So every time you hit a corner, you want to put in 3 single crochets. So I'm about to hit the first corner, so I've just single crocheted my way across. So here is my corner. So this is part of the corner, that's part of the corner, and that's part of the corner. So 3, so the middle one is my new corner. So I single crochet in the new corner. I want to put in 3 single crochets to continue that bend that you need in order to make it a hexagonal. So then you start again going down the next side. So you put in your 3 there and 1 single crochet into each, going all the way around. Now I decided to put this round in, like you're thinking, why did you do that? You know, you're kind of using up all this time, but blah blah blah. But I did it so that it could make it really stable, so that the Afghan will really hold itself together really quite nicely. Not everybody likes their Afghans to have a lot of open space for lace, and so I wanted to make sure by putting in this round that it stays nice and tight together so that there's not a lot of open space. So there is a method to my madness. You just have to believe in me once in a while. And there we go. So here's your next corner. So we have, just like you see here, there's the 3, there's the middle. So we want to make sure you're paying attention to the 3, and then in the middle one put in 3 single crochets and then continue. So I want you to continue with this round. This is the last time you're going to be using red until we do the joining border, but let's just get you to do this first, and then we have one more round of natural before then we start doing all the joining and all the really fun stuff. So I'm coming up all the way back around. I'm continuing the single crochet all the way until I get to the very first single crochet that I started with. Make sure your counts are not off. Okay, get that final one in, and then you just want to slip stitch to the beginning single crochet like so, and then you just want to trim your yarn and weave in your ends. Now this is kind of the same way as we did with the white, is that if we do a good job on weaving them in, you're not gonna have to use a darning needle afterward as well. So just kind of going back along the edging and just kind of weaving your tails in. I do about 1 inch to 2 inches generally on this kind of idea. There's sometimes you need to pull out that darning needle, but I've designed this in a way that the yarn will kind of lock into each other, and because I'm kind of lazy like that. So I've just weaved it in. I give it a good stretch so that I know that if somebody's ever trying to stretch your Afghan, it's at the maximum amount of stretch, and then I can just trim and be done with that. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring back natural, and we're going to go one more round in natural, and then we're going to play with the borders then next. So here's your final round before you start doing the border round. So we're going to start off with natural. Do a slip knot onto your hook first. So what I want you to do, you can pick any side, doesn't matter, as long as you get the middle one of the group of 3. Okay, so just go for a corner. So just look for the middle one. Doesn't matter which one, they're all equal. And just I take both strands over, pull through, and then I'm going to use that now and chain up 3. So 1, so that's now locked, 2 and 3, and I want to double crochet 2 more times into that same space, or that same stitch that we joined to. So this is your new corner that you're doing. So now you're going to double crochet yourself across the flat edge. Okay, so this is a really no big deal. There's no adding, subtracting really, other than the corners. You just have to continue to grow out. So where are we gonna find the corner? Well, if you remember that there's 3 single crochets on every corner, so it's gonna be the middle single crochet of the 3 that is your next corner of where you're going to add in your 3 double crochets. So I'm coming up along the edge to the first corner. You can physically see that it's turning, so that gives you an indication, so you don't have to go too wrong there. And I literally want to stop and just kind of look where my third one is. So there's 1, 2 and 3. Okay, there's the middle, so I got 1 more to go, that's regular, and then the middle one is gonna get 3 double crochets. So 1, 2 and 3, and then the corner is done, and then we just continue with the next one going all the way down until the next corner. So please do that, and I'll meet you back here in just a moment. We're gonna be starting to do the joining work next, but we have to do one complete around, and then I'm gonna show you how to do the joining ones after that as well. So I'm coming all the way back around, and we're just the last stitch left. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to slip stitch to the top of the beginning chain 3 that we started with, and this is the end of the white. So say goodbye bye white, we're done with you for this particular project. You just have to do all your motifs. Just again, simply just trim your yarn and weave in the ends. So the next revolutions that we're about to do is that we're gonna do the border, and I want to explain this before we do this, so that you're on the same track that I am at this point. And so this is how you're going to do all of your steps along the way. So now that I've weaved that in, I could just safely just trim, pull, and there is the motif done. And this is just like the ones that we had already off camera, just like this. Okay, and what we want to do then at this point is that we want to begin to join things together. So let me show you how to do that next, and that's what we're gonna do right after this. So we're now ready to do the joining process, and as I said in the beginning of this tutorial is that we want to do everything in stages. It's just faster for you to do all of the white section first and then come back and do all the reds and then come back and do all the whites. And so you're just gonna gathering them up like an assembly line. You don't have to read the pattern as much and you'll have really great success as a result. So now we want to be able to start joining these to the neighbor. So to join these to a neighbor, you have to be very conscientious of one thing. So off camera here, what I have is that I have one that has a border completely done. Okay, you see it here in green. I just did these in different colors in order to just to kind of see if red was really what I wanted to go for. And what we want to do is that we have to do one complete border first. So one Afghan or one motif is gonna have the motif done all the way around. The rest of them, what we're going to do is that we're going to get to a certain spot, and then where they're going to join we want to begin to assemble, and these things are going to get assembled like honeycomb. And the way that I'm about to show you is going to then be able to build on the one. Okay, so we have to do one. So you can never attach, for example, say you're about to put a border on this one and this does not have a border, you cannot attach them. So one of them at least that you're joining to must have the border already completely done in order to create that join. So let's begin, and I'm going to show you how to do the border next, and this is gonna be for the very first one and the only one that you'll do all the way around, just like so. Let's start off with doing the border, and what I want you to notice here is that there's something really weird going on in the middle. You know, leave it to me, I always do something weird, and the reason why I did something weird is that the counts are gonna be off if I didn't do it the way that I'm about to show you next. So when we go to join, you'll see that there's 3 double crochets here in the white, and we join to the middle one here, and then we're going to jump over every other stitch. And we have to do it so that there's 4 gap spaces. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then there's 2 in a row single crocheted, and then again 1, 2, 3, and 4. So at any point if you have screwed up, and I'm not saying that there is, and I'm not denying that there isn't, but on my particular Afghan sometimes I screwed up and actually missed my counts, or I was off by 1 stitch, I faked it. Honestly, nobody's really gonna notice unless you're gonna fake everything, and then you're in big trouble. So what you want to just do is that if, for example, I come out and I'm skipping over, and then I realize I'm gonna skip over the middle one and go to the next one over, I will fake it and just put it in there anyway. So sometimes a girl's got to do what a girl's got to do. So let's begin, and we're going to start off by joining into a side here. Our biggest thing is that we have to pay attention to the 4 gapping spaces that you see here, and then do the 2 center and then the 4 on the next side. It's no big deal, and we're gonna do that on every side that you see. So every side is equal to each other. Okay, so I chose red for my particular join. It's up to you what you want to do. You can do a completely different color. Again, this is your creativity. Don't let people tell you what you can and cannot do. Okay, this is your creativity. So if you like a certain color, who are we to judge you? We're just gonna support you here on the Crochet Crowd. So we have our 3 right in the center. The middle one, let's insert our hook into the middle one, and we're going to yarn over and pull through and through. Now because this is the big honking knot that you see here that is a technical word today, so just bear with me. It looks like a big ugly knot at this point. I count that as a single crochet, because if you do another single crochet in here, it's gonna be so obvious that it really will stick out, and this is when you can fake it and actually be in real big trouble. So what I would do is just take the straggler over again, and I want you to chain over 3 times. So 1, 2, oh that was a 2, that was a faking 2, 2, and 3. Coming back down, skip the next one available to you, go to the second one over and single crochet. So chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, skip the next one, single crochet. Isn't this so hard? I know. 1, 2, 3. This is why they want me teaching on our YouTube, because I'm so fabulous with making it so hard for you. So okay, so we have 3 gaps right now. We're looking for a 4th. So 1, 2, and 3, and skip the next one, and there's your 4th. So as I promised you, there would be 4 gaps. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So once you have your 4, the next one immediately after this is a single crochet, and then we start again with doing the gapping again. So chain 3, 1, 2 and 3, skip the next one, go to the second one over, 1, 2 and 3, skip the next one, 1, 2 and 3, skip the next one. Okay, so what we have to do then is we have to sometimes fake it. Okay, so you have 1, 2 and 3, and for whatever reason, and I don't know why this is, but for whatever reason I have an extra stitch in here, but it's actually kind of a good thing because I want to show you how I can fake it. Okay, so what I've got to do is that if I skip over and go over to the 1, I'm not in the center, so what I'm just gonna do is I'm gonna skip over the 2 so that I keep the momentum of the 4 gapping spaces. You know what? I gotta do what I gotta do. Okay, this is just a reality crochet. Some people expect to be perfect all the time. Life ain't like that. So let's begin. So we're in the middle. Let's start again. So 1, 2 and 3, and we're gonna create another side here. So we skip the first one, single crochet over, 1, 2 and 3, skip the next one, single crochet, 1, 2 and 3, skip the next one. Okay, and we want to do it so that there's 4 gapping spaces again. Now don't be confused on where you're counting that from. So you're looking for the corner, so it's the middle one. So you have 1, 2, 3 and 4. So once you have that 4, the next one is gonna be a single crochet, so you have your 2 in a row, and then 1, 2 and 3, start skipping again. So 1. So the key element at this point is that if I haven't you faking it over here, is that it's going to matter on the external of this and how it's joining to all your neighbors, because if you start adding more stuff here and not here, you're never gonna join it with anything else. Like that's just the reality of the whole thing. So 1, 2 and 3, and again I seem to be having one extra. I have no idea why that is. I never had that many issues on my original, but something is a little off, but I'm gonna stick with it. Okay, so if this is happening to you, just go with it. Okay, don't fight it, just go with it. So let's start another side. 1, 2, 3. Okay, skip the next one. So 1, 2, 3. I do apologize, I don't know why that's not working out. I could be too busy yakking at you. 1, 2 and 3. But you know what? A true crocheter knows how to fake it. I'm sorry. So here we go. So a corner. So here's 1, 2, 3 and 4th gap, crochet into the next, and then 1, 2 and 3, skip the next 1. Okay, and I'm continuing to go all the way to the next corner. See, and this is interesting. See, now this time it's right. 1, 2, 3. I know. They don't pay me for my good looks. I don't even think they pay me for my brain, if you ask me. So anyway, I happen to be right on this one. So my key element is that you just need to make sure you have 8 gapping spaces, and if you have to fake it or make it, if some judge is gonna come at you at a country fair, deny everything and just hold your hand waiting for your ribbon. That's what I would do. So continue in that same fashion going all the way around and get this one done, and then I'm gonna show you how to join them to your neighbor then for the remainder, and that's coming up next. So I'm coming up all the way around, and you can see I'm going all the way around. Look how fabulous this is. So when I was doing this, the first 2 sides had an extra stitch. I don't know why that is. I'm gonna blame the snow because it's snowing outside at this moment, and then the other sides were all perfect. I know. What can I say? Actually, you know what? I have a bad habit of blaming our assistant Laura Jean for everything. She takes a lot of abuse, let me tell you. So she's kind of, we're doing a live feed at the moment. She can see that I'm saying that, so she knows it's true. But she always sends me an angel face. So here we go. So we have the final gaps. Okay, this is already in the final. And 1, 2 and 3, and then we just go into the corner. First single crochet, or that, remember that big honkin' ugly knot? That's where I've gone. Okay, so just look for that knot. Did do a slip stitch and finish off this color, and just pull through and through. I'm saying what to do, my fingers are not doing that. So let's just trim off our yarn, and this is where you're really gonna have to weave in your ends really quite carefully. So just pull through. and pull up on it so it's kind of a knotting, and just go in and out. Now the next ones are going to attach around these sections here, so you want to make sure you're getting it stuck in there so that when they go to join with each other, they're kind of grabbing onto each other already naturally. And so you just want to kind of work your way down those in there. Sometimes your fingers are better than a hook. So here we go. Okay, so the first one is done. So now all the rest of them are going to attach to this one. Okay, so this is where you start building. Now the biggest thing is that you gotta pay attention to, and let me just take a quick pause here, and I'll come back and I'll give you some tips before starting the next one. So let me give you a tip before we start doing the joining. So here we go, and we want to make sure that the motif is not turned upside down. So here is what I've been working on. You can kind of see it kind of wants to lift up like a bowl of soup kind of idea. See how it's kind of lifting up? The other side is kind of facing down, so you see it's dipping down. So this is the wrong side, this is the right side. So the biggest mistake that you could possibly do at this point is that you could attach them together so that they're not facing in the same direction, because literally if one is upside down, you are gonna physically see the difference. Do you see the difference here? Do you see this is kind of more compact looking, etc., other than the color being a little off? I don't know why that is. So what we have here, so we want to make sure that the right sides are facing each other. So when we go to join them, we want to be very conscientious, and when I did the joining, I kind of laid them out on a table to do the join to make sure that I wasn't going to screw it up. And once you have it and you know it's right, you can continue to go and then lift it off the table in order to make it work. So let's begin to do a joining motif, and let me show you how to do that next. So we're gonna start the joining at this point, and we're just gonna create a slip knot and put it in your hook. So we want to grab the motif that you want to join to one that's already done. So you can never join this to one that's not been done. It has to join to one that already has the border waiting for you. So here we go. So we're gonna insert into the middle one of the 3, yarn over, and pull through. And so you get that big honking knot again. Okay, so don't worry about that. So just want to chain 3. So 1, 2, and 3. So what I would recommend is never join it the first time. Okay, never join it together the first time. Go one layer here. At any point in this Afghan, you should only be joining to 3 at one time, 3 sides. Okay, if you want to, I wouldn't go any more than that, and if you plan yourself and do it right, you don't need to do any more than that. So let's begin. So we're gonna skip over the next stitch, a single crochet in the next, and we want to create the 4 gapping spaces, 1, 2, 3, before we get to the middle. So 1, 2, and 3. Once you see how to join these go really quickly. The join is no big deal. Okay, so there is my 4 gapping spaces just like you see. The next one is a single crochet, and then we do the 4 gapping spaces again. So 1, 2, and 3. And let's see if my counts are off on this one. 1, 2, 3. I did this on the cruise ship, this particular one. So 1, 2, and 3. And my counts are right. So when I skip over, I'm gonna be on the very end one. So there you go. Who would have thought that, right? So we're going right into the edge. So now we're gonna start joining it to the neighbor. It does not matter at this point which side you're going to join to, because they're all equal at this point. It's just a matter of like how you're going to do the next one, because then it's gonna start honeycombing itself together. So what we're going to do is that we're going to substitute the chaining of 3 with a join. So you're going to chain 1, okay, then you're going to slip stitch to the joining neighbor on the very same gapping space, and we'll cover this, and then we're gonna chain 1, and then we're gonna skip 1 and come into the next. So here's how you do it. So you're right on a corner, so we're gonna chain 1, and we are gonna fill in this section here, so we're going to join it to the neighbor at the same point. Okay, so look for that center one right there, and we want to come into the very next space, because that's what we're creating at this point. Okay, so here's the center. So we're coming in and just wrap around and slip stitch it together, and then chain 1, and then come back to the one you're working on, skip 1, and single crochet. Okay, so let me review this again. So you're gonna chain 1 this time, then go into the next space that's available to you. Okay, so it matches, slip stitch, chain 1, skip 1, and go into the next. So chain 1, going into the next one on the other side, slip stitch that, and then chain 1. So you want to be conscientious of these 4 gapping spaces. So I can see 3 at this point. So chain 1, slip stitch to the next like so, chain 1, and then coming skip 1 and go into the next. So here is my 4 gapping spaces. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the next one is going to be another single crochet, and if you look on the other side, there's another single crochet in there as well. Okay, so they match each other. So chain 1 to start the next one again, jumping over to the next space, chain 1, and coming back. So where you're joining them, you're going to substitute this instruction instead of just doing a chain 3 and skipping over. You want to just wrap around the next space on the other side. Okay, and you want to go all the way down the edge. So even if you're off by a count, which I'm not in this particular case, is that you want to make sure that you gotta fake it so that you end up with the same amount of gapping spaces. So I've just done the very last one, and then I'm coming into the middle one to complete that side. So here's what it looks like at this point. Okay, so you've just joined everything without having to use a darning needle, and now we're just gonna start this side here. So if there was another one here that was already done, okay, you'll continue that same instruction, but if there's nothing there, you just simply just chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and continue to do the side like you have been. And that's all you have to do for these particular ones. So for example, in the next one here, like if you go to join it and it's to these two here, when you go to join the next one, for example, you'll have 2 sides that are being joined at the same time, and then you just keep building and building, and at any point it'll only ever be 3 sides at one time. And that's how you would do this. So continue to do this all the way around. Be mindful to keep the eye open for that 4 gapping spaces. I was just about to make a mistake. So you got 4, so 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then we just come to the next one for a single crochet and then chain 3 again. So continue to do this all the way around, and when we come back I'll cover on how to make the border completely at this point. So I'm coming up all the way back around, and I just want to join to the very first single crochet. So now I've gone all the way around in this. I want to trim off my yarn, and you could just have to continue to do this until you have all your motifs joining together, and again it's really no big deal. So in the next part of this tutorial I'm going to show you how to do the border itself. The border is relatively easy. I'm gonna teach it in a way that you can change the shape of my Afghan to be something completely different if you wish. I'm just gonna give you the clues that you need to look for in order to adapt, and again this is a no-brainer in my opinion. I did it in a way that it's gonna be easy for you to be able to follow along. So once we have this done here, you're gonna have all your motifs then done, and it will look like this. Okay, they'll all be joining together just like this, and what we're going to do next is that we're gonna show you how to do the border, and that will be coming up right after this. So we're now going to start doing the border at this point, and what you're gonna have on the outside, you'll have some pieces where it'll go completely around a motif. Okay, so you might have one joining over here. This might be completely exposed on the end, and then where they're going to join you'll notice that there's a dip in and then back out. And so if you can identify what is what I referred to in the pattern, so this is a less than 180 degree angle, and this is more than 180 degree angle, and if you can identify that, it makes it a lot easier to be able to follow. So what I want you to do is that I want you to come out to one, and it will probably be on the outside of your, like an outside corner or near to a corner, and what I want you to do is that I want you to identify it, and this is a more than 180 degree turn, and I want you to start there first, and then you make decisions going all the way around. Doesn't matter how you've attached them, you're always just gonna have more than 180 and less, or and less than 180. So let's grab your yarn up, create a slip knot, and we're going to go into any corner that is more than 180. So when we go to join it, you'll notice that this red is right in the center of the 3, and I want you to join it to the first one on this side. Okay, right there, and just go right into a gapping space and pull your yarn through, just yarn over, and I want you to chain up 3. So 1, 2, and 3, and I want you to double crochet 2 more times into that same space. Okay, and that is gonna make sense in a second. So on the other side of this center point, you're gonna put in 3 double crochets on this side. And there's a reason why you're doing this in just a sec. So what we're going to do is along the entire side, even just skipping over this middle where there's 2, there's only gonna be 2 double crochets going in every space. There's no chaining between anything. It's just simply just double crochets. So that had 2, this is gonna get 2. And you make a decision every time you hit to a joining point or to a corner. And this is the middle one. There's 2 in a row here. We just immediately just skip right over. I tried adding extra here at this point and it makes it buckle, so if you want it to sit down, just continue to double crochet, and you're gonna get yourself to a joining point next. That's coming up on my particular sample here. Okay, so what we want to do is that we're gonna pay attention to this one here and this one, but we're gonna totally skip over this middle section right here. So we double crochet into the space right before the join, and we immediately just reach over to the next space that's available in the next one and double crochet 2 times. That causes it to want to make that turn in order to keep the shape. So we then continue along and then we make a choice. So I'm gonna get you to the next corner where I'll show you the next choice, and then you just continue around in the same fashion. Okay, so in just 2 double crochets into each. Even the middle section where there's 2 single crochets, we just jump over that as if it's not even there. Okay, and just come into the other space on the other side. It was put in there to keep the motifs in balance to each other. That's why I did that. So I'm coming up to a corner soon. So we want to pay attention to which one is the center DC or double crochet, and we make a decision based on that. So at this point it's going to be more than 180, so it's coming up and around, so it's more than 180s. So on this side of the space there's going to be 3 double crochet in that spot instead of 2, and on the other side of that center it's going to be 3 double crochets, and that allows it to turn around consistently and stay flat. So then all the rest of the sections here is going to be 2 double crochets into each space until you get to the next spot. So there will probably be another join probably around here somewhere, so it'll probably dip down. Just do the same thing, double crochets, just skip over and just double crochet into the next space, and do that all the way around for round number 1 of your border. When you get all the way back around, you've already done the first corner, so make sure you don't redo and put a third 3 double crochets in the final one before you do the join. So once you get your 2 in there, just join it to the top of the beginning chain 3 that you started off with, and then fasten this off, and the round is then complete going all the way around. So what we want to do is that we're gonna introduce red back into the equation. Okay, and your border's now been stabilized, and it gets really simple from this point. There's no more thinking about this particular pattern. We don't have to really grow it anything anymore, and I'm gonna show you what to do next. And so there's 2 more rounds left, and the red is next before bringing back the white one more time. So starting off in a corner, you can do the one before, the one after, it really doesn't matter. We're gonna skip every other stitch going all the way around anyway, so it's not a big deal. So what I want you to do is that we're just gonna start off, and here's the corner. I'm gonna start off in the first one, just insert in, yarn over. Okay, and then just pull through and count that as a single crochet, and I want you to chain 1. So just 1, skip the next single crochet and single crochet into the next. Okay, so then chain 1, skip the next crochet, double crochet and go into the next. Chain 1, skip the next double crochet and chain into the next. And I want you to do that all the way around. Okay, so that their projects should stay in balance. So even if you're getting to the points in between the joins, it doesn't matter. You're just chaining 1 and skipping 1 and single crocheting into the next. And this is creating the look that you're gonna get all the way around. So please do that, and when we come back then I'll show you what to do for your final round, which is an extended single crochet stitch. It's kind of really neat. When you get all the way back around, you simply just want to finish it off, and you just want to join to the first single crochet that you did. So make sure you do your chain 1 first before finishing that, and then we're just gonna weave in our ends at this point, and then we're gonna bring our white back and do a final revelation of that particular Afghan, and then that's it for this particular design. So let's start our final revolution, and we're gonna get our white ready, and we're going to go into any one of these chain 1 spaces. It doesn't matter which one you go into, it's all gonna balance out anyway. And here we go. So we're just gonna insert in, yarn over, go up over top, and pull through. So what we want to do is that we want to single crochet back into the same chain 1 space, and we want to do an extended picot. So how you do the extended picot is that you are going to then chain 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, coming into the very chain 1 that you started with, okay, right there, and pull through and through, and then single crochet back into that chain 1 space. Okay, that's back in there in red. So just going into that same space and chain 1, sorry, a single crochet, and then that's 1. Okay, so then the next one, we're just coming into the next chain 1 space, immediately just single crochet there, and then chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, coming into the first chain, yarn over through and through, and then single crochet back into that same chain 1 space back in the red. And these are creating I like to call it a snowflake edge basically. So come into the next one, single crochet, chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, coming back into the first chain, yarn over through and through, and then single crochet back into that first chain 1 space. I need you to do that all the way around. When you get back to the other side, you're just gonna simply just join to the first single crochet to finish, and that is it for this particular tutorial on how to do all of this. And it's really quite easy when you break it down step by step. So in the end, you will end up with an amazing Scandinavian Snowflake Afghan. You'll have everything joined, you'll have your borders completely done, you'll have your extended picots that we've just finished off doing, and it's going to look amazing, and it's quite sharp, and there's no sewing involved, and a lot of people would like that. So this is my particular design. Please enjoy it. It is a free pattern available on the crochetcrowd.com, and for more free patterns and ideas, please stay tuned to Yarnspirations or the crochetcrowd.com, and we'll see you and have an amazing day. Until next time, I'm Mikey, your host.